All right.
All right, hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, I have Luke Deutschlander, also known, aka the Wolf of eBay. And so today, I'm actually going to be doing an interview of him, just kind of asking him a bunch of questions about phone flipping, looking at his story, because if you guys don't know, he does some big numbers, way more than I do right now. And it's definitely a guy that I am looking up to, and he's honestly mentored me a little bit throughout the past couple of weeks. So with that said, we're kind of going to get right into it. So before we get into it, definitely hit the like button for today's video. And if you're not subbed to the channel, definitely hit that little subscription button down below. We'd all really appreciate the support. So Luke, obviously we're going to start it off. So just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and we can kind of go from there.
Cool. Well, thanks, Kish, for having me. Yeah, so hey, guys, how's it going? So my name is Luke Deutschlander, and basically I started phone flipping around 4 to 5 years ago. And, you know, my story is not like, I guess, everybody else's. Like, you know, there's a lot of people out there that they kind of just, like, fell into this business. But I kind of got forced into it in a way. You know, it's a long story, but long story short, basically, you know, desperate times came to desperate measures, and, you know, I lost my job at the time, and I just needed to make more money. Like, I had all these bills that I had accumulated. I had a bunch of car payments, and I actually had a house payment at the time too, and I was working at this really good job when I was 19 years old, and I was basically bringing in around $8,000 a month. So naturally, I kind of had adapted to that lifestyle, and then long story short, the economy kind of changed. It was an oil field based job. All the oil field jobs went away, and I lost that job. And that job was basically everything at the time. And that's all I knew, 9 to 5. I mean, I was literally a put on your blue jeans and go get dirty with your, you know, steel toe boots. That's what I was doing, was physical labor. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I lost the job, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I had never been an entrepreneur before. I, you know, never bought and sold anything. And at that moment, I basically got involved in some stuff that was, you know, not so legitimate. It was a bad thing. This is, like I said, 5 years ago. But I basically did some stuff that was not so good, got put into a really bad place. I pretty much lost everything that I had. I had a 2013 Dodge Ram at the time. I had a 2013 Scion FRS, a 2013 Yamaha R1, and then I had a Trailblazer and a Cobalt SS at the time too, and a 5-bedroom house. So at 19, that's a lot to accomplish, and then I lost it all. I literally lost everything that I had because I lost the job. I had to sell everything. Some things the bank repossessed. It was terrible. And, you know, I wanted to try and prevent all this, but it was too late. Ended up having to file bankruptcy and everything. I mean, I filed bankruptcy, I think, before I turned age 21 or 22. So things took a huge turn for me. But at that point, in that low point, at that very, very low point, I realized that I needed to come up with something. I needed to do something. I needed to create income somehow, some way. And I saw this phone on Craigslist. It was, I still remember it. I think it was either an iPhone 5S or an iPhone 6. And I went and picked it up, and I only paid $20 for it. Now, this is, like I said, back in 2013, 2014, when those phones are actually worth pretty good money. And I think I paid $20 for it. And the person said that it was like password locked. And I got it home, and I was like, okay, well, even though it's password locked, I looked it up on eBay. I'm like, I can still sell this for like 80 bucks. And then I plugged it into my computer, and I reset it on iTunes. And I was like, wow, seriously? Like, this phone just reset. This $20 phone that I just got, this is like a $200 phone now. So I made $180 profit in one deal. And it was at that moment that I realized that this is something I could turn into a business. It was at the lowest point that kind of forced me to look into other alternatives rather than looking for a job. That basically, you know, I stumbled upon this whole phone flipping thing is that 4 or 5 years ago when I was at the lowest point in my life.
So let me ask you, like, obviously you're at that point now. How did you just make a lot of mistakes in the beginning? How did you end up learning? Was it just like trial and error, or did you have somebody, or what was that kind of looking like?
Sure. So like in the beginning, there was a lot of, I would definitely say there was a lot of trial and error. And I've actually got some kind of funny stories about some of the characters that I dealt with early on in the phone flipping game.
Yeah.
So, something to mention, some of the people out there that you might be newer to phone flipping, some of it comes more natural to people than others. And by that, I mean, growing up, I was a big video gamer. I was a very technical person. I was always into computers. I typed like 130 words per minute, believe it or not. I've always been computer savvy, technology savvy. So it came pretty easy to me. And I did a lot of research online, and then some of it was trial and error, but I didn't have too many mistakes as far as buying phones, that were illegitimate. But I do want to reference one period in time in phone flipping. This is when I was about 2 years in. I met a character. We're going to just call him a character because this guy was just the shadiest person I think I've ever dealt with in my phone flipping career. And this guy, we're just going to call him a clown because that's what he is. He's a clown. So this clown that I dealt with, I remember meeting him. I was so excited. And this was, like I said, back in the day, this was like, I think 2014 or 2015. And he came across one of my ads on Craigslist. And fast forward to, I stopped reaching out to people. I started posting ads where people would reach out to me. So he reaches out to one of my ads and he says, hey, I got 5 brand new Galaxy S6 Edges unlocked for, they're just unlocked and they're 128 gigabytes. So I'm like, whoa, these are like Mac Daddy phones. So I started talking to this guy and everything. Everything seems legit. He's got this big story. I'm a professional poker player. I get phones. I get electronics all the time. And I buy these 5 phones for him. And at the time, I want to say these phones were, I think they were like $700 or $800 a piece online. I can't remember, this a while ago, but I didn't pay very much for them. I only paid like $350 each for them. And I bought all 5 of them. And I remember walking away from that deal like, damn, I just made, $1,000 to $1,500 profit. And at that time, I did not know that a phone couldn't just be like unlocked. I thought that, because what he said, they were legit, they were brand new sealed. I'm like, well, they have to be unlocked because they're not used. They can't have a balance load on them.
Yeah.
And later on, I sold 2 of those phones on eBay. I sold them for, top dollar. Got lucky, didn't get any returns on the 2 that I sold, but I wanted to help some family out and help them make a little money. And then one of them wanted to keep one for personal use. So I sold one to my brother. It was like, I think I sold it to him for like 6. I gave him like $200 off what I sold it for on eBay. And then I gave 2 to my cousin also for him to resell. And, just to like check it out, I was like, if this supplier, this clown keeps giving me phones and keeps signing bill of sales, everything could be all good. And I didn't suspect anything because the guy signed a legal bill of sale and everything. He wasn't sketchy. He was, straightforward about everything. And then a month and a half went by. And my brother gets a message from eBay because my brother also sold one. And he said, yeah, people are trying to return this phone because it's like blacklisted or something. And then my cousin gets the same message too. Luckily, my eBay ones, for whatever reason, they didn't get blacklisted out of the bunch that he gave me, the 5. But out of the 5 phones, they got blacklisted. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do, guys. And then I look like the bad guy. I got my cousin coming at me and my brother coming at me like, hey, you sold us crappy phones, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, guys, I swear, I had no idea. I don't know what's going on. I've been doing this for a while and I haven't encountered this yet. Because keep in mind, I'm in a town of 13,000 people. This isn't Dallas, Texas. This isn't, big city. There's tons of phones going around everywhere. And so this is the first supplier or whatever you want to call them that I dealt with. And it turns out that this guy, all he was selling was finance phones. And at that point, that's when I realized when you buy finance phones that you have to buy them as bad ESN or blacklisted from the get-go because they will eventually become blacklisted. So that was one of the mistakes that I made. I didn't end up losing money, but I lost something more than money. I lost a little bit of respect and reputation with 2 people that trusted me, that trusted my expertise. So I was mad. So I blew up the clown guy's phone and, messaged him a bunch and told him, and he didn't seem to know much about it either. It seemed like he was convinced that the phones were also unlocked because he's just a seller. He didn't really know the technicalities of it. And I ended up meeting up with them a few more times, but this time he got the prices, lower prices because of the fact that they, might not have been clean, even though he signed a bill of sale, everything was fine there. And I learned from that mistake though.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I always tell people is that like there's kind of like a finite amount of mistakes you can make in phone flipping. So it's fine to totally make one. And I tell people that all the time. Like me and you obviously do our best with like promoting our courses and helping them avoid the scams. But as long as you like, for me, I watched a YouTube video once and it was like I went out, bought a phone, financed, same thing. I didn't get the return because the guy ended up accidentally closing it on eBay. And he didn't know you can't reopen it. And so I always tell people, like, if you're going to make a mistake in the phone flipping industry, just recognize that it's like, as long as you don't make it again, you're never going to come across it again. And therefore it's just going to be a positive cash flow from there. So it's totally fine to make the mistakes, especially for people that are like in the beginning of phone flipping right now. You're going to make mistakes. It's totally fine. But one thing I always tell people is that these phones still are worth something. Like if you have like this phone with you and ends up going blacklisted, it's still worth something. A lot of the times if we're able to buy these phones low enough, and that's one of the things I always tell people, if you try to buy phones at a bad ESM price, a lot of the time, worst comes to worst, you're still making $100 on them or whatever your minimum profit is. And then you kind of go from there. And if it ends up turning to be a good phone, you're easily making $200-300 on that phone. So that's a pretty cool thing I like about the phone flipping industry in terms of like, there isn't like, there's a bunch of scams out there and we have to watch for them, but if we're able to learn from our mentors or learn from just doing it, as long as you don't make it twice, you're going to be successful here. Right. So.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a learning curve, like I said, just me being a technical person, I didn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but that was one mistake where after that had happened, I wanted to go out and do research. And, for some of the newer people watching this, I think I should clarify that because I think I even saw one of your YouTube videos where you were kind of wondering why, people always, say to buy Sprint is bad ESN, T-Mobile and everything.
Yeah.
The reason why that is it kind of goes back to this mistake that I made, 3-4 years ago. And what I realized is that think of it like apartments, because I think everybody out there age like 17 and up can relate to this. Have you ever seen, driving through the neighborhoods or driving through your city, you see those kind of, I guess, lower end apartments that are like $500-600 a month for a 2-bedroom. And then you get to that upscale part of town and you see those apartments that are like $900 to $1,000 a month, and they're in the nicer neighborhood. How you got to think of phones and the phone carriers are in the phone flipping industry is Sprint and T-Mobile are like those kind of ghetto apartments. They have credit screening policies when they bring in new customers that are more lenient than that of AT&T or Verizon that are up here in those $900 to $1,000 apartments. So naturally, all the kind of cruddy customers, and I'm not discriminating for anybody out there who has Sprint or T-Mobile. This isn't necessarily everybody, but it's the most common thing. Since Sprint and T-Mobile have very lenient credit policies, most of the time, these are the people that don't end up paying on their bills with Sprint and T-Mobile. Where Verizon and AT&T are up here, and they're a lot more strict on which customers they take in. And for that reason, why they blacklist after a month later, it's not because Sprint and T-Mobile always lock their phones. It's because it's what's called as the gray period. This is in my course. I call it the gray period. The gray period is the time frame between which a phone is financed on the initial date, and then it needs to go 1 to 3 months with complete missed payments for the phone company to actually blacklist the phone. So if a customer, like say a seller, buys a phone and then comes and flips it to you that day, you will not be able to tell that that phone is going to have a finance balance or a bad ESN for around 1 to 3 months. If a phone seller brings you a phone between 1 week and then the date that they financed it was between 1 week, it might not even show up on IMEI sites that it's financed. So it's very hard to tell. So you need to watch out for that. And, some of the biggest signs are people who are always unloading brand new phones, or people who say, oh, it's unlocked, but they won't tell you what the original carrier of the phone came from. So it's called the gray period, and you gotta watch out for that, because Sprint, T-Mobile, US Cellular, and all these kind of like lower end cell phone companies, they attract those kind of customers and they try and unload the phones after they only pay 1 month's worth of the bill.
All right. Well, that's honestly, like, I'm always learning too. So that's pretty good information. So obviously people I mentioned in the beginning, like you're doing way better than me. And so obviously people are probably going to ask if you don't tell us, what kind of numbers are you pulling right now? Obviously you've been doing it for a bunch of years, but kind of give us a rough estimate of what kind of numbers you're doing right now.
Sure. So yeah, like mostly for the most part, I started out on selling on eBay. I do have a lot of direct buyers that I sell to now, which is mostly on PayPal. But like this last week, I mean, it's been a pretty busy week. My girlfriend had to get her tonsils taken out, so I was there for surgery. I just officially closed on my second house yesterday. So I got a lot of other stuff going on. But even while doing that, Thursday, I did like 5,500 in gross sales in one day. And then today got some more PayPal notifications for 3 to 4 grand. In a good month for me looks like around 30 to 40,000 while I've got everything else going on in gross sales. And then a really, really good month where I kind of just block everything else out and I focus on phone flipping is around 50 to 60,000 in 1 month flipping phones on eBay and PayPal between the two.
Okay, and so obviously that takes the extra effort, and it's almost like you have to be doing it, phone flipping for pretty much full time in a sense. I know obviously that you're not doing it full time because you have other things, but you're able to manage it now since you've been doing it for so long. What does it take to get to those kind of numbers? Are you getting phones from people all around the U.S.? Are you going locally? Like, how does that work for you?
So how it kind of, like basically how I scaled up. So what I try and do is kind of the biggest tip I can give for people is if you live in a smaller town, like I started in a town of 13,000 people. And when I was in that town of 13,000 people, some of the biggest numbers that I hit was, 20,000, 25,000 a month, which is still really good. But I was just like, man, what if I could somehow, gather phones from people like outside of my area? So what I've personally done is I will post ads in cities that are 50 to 80 miles away, kind of like a surrounding area. So my city's here and I try and target kind of this circle, this little circle that I kind of plan out. And I'll only market, within this circle. I won't go way out here or way out here, but I like to market around in the circle. And when I get people who message me, asking me for phones that are far away, I'll usually offer them a $20 gas card. And usually if my offer for the phone is good and then the $20 gas card, they're totally sold on it. And not to mention, you can take that gas card receipt and you can just put it in your slips at the end of the year for a tax deduction. So you're really not spending any more money. You're more or less kind of investing and, catering to the customer and getting them to come your way. They're happy with the phone, and you just got a deduction and made somebody's day because you gave them a gas card too.
People are willing to actually come that far.
Yeah, I actually had a customer. It's not something that I normally market for, but I had a customer bring me a iPhone X around 1 hour and a half away, one way, all the way to Starbucks, and I gave her a $20 gas card. She was pretty happy. What happened is she bought an iPhone X. I felt bad for her. She bought an iPhone X and she paid $700 for it. Turns out when she went to go activate it, it was for the wrong carrier, and then it was blacklisted on the one that she wanted to activate it on. Yeah. So I sympathized with her over the phone. I told her, hey, I'll give you a $20 gas card if you want to meet me, at Starbucks. That's where we met. And she was happy, and I think I gave her like $300 for the phone. So I ended up selling it for like $550 to $600. It was mint, just got screwed over.
Anything like that, right? Yeah.
Right. So that's like one of the biggest things I do. And then, another thing that you can do is try and record all your customers. Like every time a customer sells me a phone, I actually save them as a contact in my phone, and then I set a little note, and it will say like, this lady came from Minnesota and she sold me an iPhone X on this date. Send a message in 1 month and ask if she has any other smartphones or electronics. So I follow up with a lot of people, which I think a lot of phone flippers, they don't do that. But you'd be surprised if you follow up with the customers that had a good experience with you, how often they actually have other stuff they want to sell.
Yeah, because I mean, I've noticed that too when usually, especially with families, when one person's trying to sell their phone, the whole family's trying to sell all their phones, right? And that's where we're able to have those $1,000 profit kind of days because some family wants to unload their entire thing. Like that's where people can start seeing a lot of money is in those kind of cases. So
exactly
possible. And so Obviously, we're not trying to make this too long, so I have two more questions for you. Obviously, phone flipping, it's starting to pick up a little bit traction with guys like me and you and a couple other guys in the industry kind of promoting it. What is kind of the future of phone flipping in your opinion? Is it going to be dead soon? Is it just starting? Like, what is your outtake on that?
Sure. Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I get this question a lot, and I think my answer is probably going to be what you expect, but there's going to be a couple things that, you're going to be like, oh, that makes complete sense. So for the newer people out there getting into the phone flipping industry and people out there who might be scared of like buying an online course, I got a couple things of advice for you here. And then on top of that, a couple words of encouragement. So number one, buying a course online from somebody who knows exactly what they're doing, that's been doing it for like 3 to 5 years, or even somebody who's newer, but is doing a good job and displaying good information, that by far is the best way to take this business in, is from an online course from somebody who already knows what they're doing. Because if you buy a phone and you lose, say, $200 on it, or let's say you buy 3 phones and you lose $400 on the deal, let's say you had a little more capital to start up with, you could have literally bought a course for $300 to $500 online and never ever made a single mistake. The biggest thing that costs people in this business is, I think people out there try and get into it off of all the free content out there, and then they go out and they flip a few phones, they make a few mistakes, and they end up screwing themselves, and then they have this kind of false persona or burnt image of the phone flipping industry because they think it doesn't work because they tried to do it themselves without looking up to a mentor or a course. As far as the phone flipping industry, what the future of it is, I think all the new people getting into it, if you do it right, you take a course and you be persistent and consistent, I think you can flip phones for the rest of your life till 2055 or whenever we all pass away. Yeah. Flip phones till you're in a casket. But the people out there who are just striving off of the free content out there that haven't invested in anything, those are the people that will eventually burn out. People like myself, people who are up there doing big numbers, we will never ever burn out because of the fact that we are always coming out with new ways to reinvent our advertising, new ways to get phones. People who are serious about actually making this a business, not not people out there who are basically just like phone flippers that do like a couple phones a month. You can do that, but the people who actually like brand their business and start treating it like a real business, like I stated earlier, I make notes for all my customers, I offer gas cards. The people out there who are actually trying to make phone flipping a real business are the people who are going to outlast the surge of phone flippers or the competitors out there. And so I think that phone flipping as a whole, I think if you get involved in this business or you take a course on how to do this business, I think anybody picking this course up could make a passive income or a full-time income, depending on where you live, for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I always tell people too, like maybe phone flipping isn't the term that'll be around forever, but we're not even necessarily in the phone flipping. We're in the flipping industry, right? So whether like maybe phones die out and they're like these little watches in 20 years.
Exactly.
It's just the idea of buying low and selling high. And obviously you have to know about these devices, but we're not necessarily in the phone flipping game. We're in the flipping game, right? So that's why guys like me or you or any of the other like decently successful guys or really successful guys are going to be around so long. Is because one, I think another big thing for people that are looking to be successful in the industry are the ones that are having repeat customers or creating a brand around their name.
Exactly.
Because with so much competition, if you're starting to establish yourself with as like a business, it's like maybe you create a Facebook page and people leave reviews on there. Like a lot of people have told me to start doing, and I've started to take that advice. That's when you're going to start to see repeat customers. That's when this starts to become passive, right? Is when people start reaching out to you. And yeah, we might put up 1-2 ads or maybe 5, 10, 15 ads a day. It might take you 10, 15 minutes and you're done for the day and people are coming to you. So like when he was saying passive, like a lot of people might be skeptical that it's passive. It really is. I mean, like for me, putting in 20 to 30 minutes a day to get 3-4 phones making a couple $100 is passive. Yeah, I might be doing some work and some people don't consider that passive. But if you start to learn these strategies, invest in mentors, whoever it may be, and just start to invest in like your knowledge of the phone flipping industry, that's when people can get like to your stage and get to some of the other big guys. So I think that's a big thing to push with people in the phone flipping industry as well. So.
Well, definitely. And, the thing is, too, that people aren't thinking about, smartphones are becoming more and more popular every year. I remember, I think it was 5-6 years ago, I saw my dad send his first text. And I was like, whoa, and now he's got it's nothing too updated, but he's got a Galaxy S6. And before he had a flip phone. Now he's got a smartphone. He sends texts. He's on Facebook all the time. Even the older generation is adapting into the newer generation smartphone trend. And, there's only more and more millennials being born or newer generation being born. Smartphones are going to increase, astronomically over the next 5 years, not to mention the prices on the smartphones are going up and too, which means that when people break their phones, they're going to be, they're going to be more expensive to replace. They're going to want to sell them. And then on top of that, people who opt into these finance programs are going to be more opted to selling them, because when they look at their bill and see they still owe $950 and they've been paying for a year and a half, phones are expensive. The new Note 9 is coming out, and I think that's set at $1,000 for the base model. I think the uptrend model, is $1,200, and then same thing with the iPhone 9. I think we're looking at $1,000. So don't quote me on that, but the Note 9 base model is going to be $999.99. So people break them. I mean, they're going to come to us. So the phone flipping industry, it is here to stay. Investing in a course or getting started on some free content, just do it. I mean, take some action. So
last question, just make it simple, 1 point. What is your advice to anybody that is thinking about getting the phone flipping industry, but just hasn't taken that first step?
To make it short, simple, and to the point, do it. Because if you don't start today, you're going to be, working for somebody else for the rest of your life, building somebody else's dream. And there's no better time than 2018 to basically take a step into starting a side business, investing in yourself, a course, and, possibly making a full-time income for yourself. I mean, this is the generation of online entrepreneurs, and it's never too late to learn. But if you don't start today and keep procrastinating, you're never going to start at all. Procrastination has killed many businesses since the dawn of time. People procrastinate, and overthink things. You just need to sit down and you just need to do it and tell yourself, I'm going to make this change. I'm going to take action, and I'm going to make my financial, output in life, better than it is now. And you guys just got to do it and believe in yourself.
Perfect. I like that. So obviously we're wrapping up the video here. So I'm going to leave a minute here if you want to. How would somebody be able to contact you or find you? Or do you have a Facebook group? Do you have a course yourself? You kind of plug if you want. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you guys like kind of my input in this video, you guys can check me out on YouTube. Just search Luke Deutschlander. I'm sure Kish will drop some links down below in the YouTube video today, but you can find me on YouTube. I've got Facebook also. It's just Luke Deutschlander. Same with Instagram, Luke Deutschlander. And if you guys would like to learn how to flip, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month online, I do have an online course and a paid members only group with over 100 members in it currently. And you can find that by just going to www.phoneflippingacademy.com, just how it sounds. And you guys can check out my course there. My course is normally $697.99, but for you guys checking out Kish's video today and everything, I will throw it to you guys for 50% off at $297.99.
Steal.
Yeah.
This guy knows what he's talking about. You guys have already seen that. So, Luke, I appreciate you being here. For all of you that made it to this far in the video, I know you guys are serious about this. So definitely take what Luke said, take what I said into consideration, which I know you guys are smart enough to. And if you enjoyed today's video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Hit that little subscription button down below. If you'd like to see more content, me and him are going to be shooting videos probably every single week. For the foreseeable future, whether on my channel, his channel. So definitely go subscribe to his channel as well. He's growing around the same amount as me. So let's get him up there. And with that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next video.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kish.
Yeah, thanks, boss. So you want to just shoot that over later and then